There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, everybody? Coming back at you once again. It is Keepin It Rio, your favorite podcast, the one that everybody in the world is talking about every single day. I'm sure that that's happening somewhere in the world, so it's not a false statement. But we're back with another amazing episode, and today I have got myself a really cool guest. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Pretty much this is going to go the way that a lot of the episodes do, where Blake and I literally just met about 2 minutes ago, and we've spoken very briefly about what the podcast is. But I went to a Facebook post and asked for some guests to come on the show. And my guest today was one of the guys that answered the call and is here to tell an amazing story. So with no hesitation whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Blake Grissom to the show. Blake, welcome to Keepin It Rio, my friend. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
For sure. I think it's going to be a great conversation. We've got a lot of stuff in common with the industry and so on and so forth, but there's always more to people than just the roofing world. And I think your story is one that really is inspiring and is something that's going to captivate the audience for the length of time that we're talking today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll kind of roll with it?
Yeah, for sure, man. So been in the roofing industry kind of on and off for 15 years now. Starting off wasn't really dialed in where I needed to be being young. Did a lot more partying in my younger days. And then that kind of brings me to a part of the story here. So 6 years ago, I actually ended up getting sober, putting everything down, and really got dialed into the industry and dialed into myself as well, too. Not trying to use any vulgar language, but I was just half-assing it here, more worried about partying than actually making something of this life, So once I actually ended up getting sober, man, it has been a upsoar for my career, for my life in general. Ended up getting married, have a 6-year-old daughter that my wife had, so it's technically my stepdaughter, man, but she's my little world. So it's awesome, man. And then the career, like I said, is taking off as well, too.
I love that. And that's the best kind of story about our industry. And you'd be surprised by how many people I talk to throughout the course of any given day that have a similar situation where get into the industry as a youngster and you kind of get a bunch of stuff thrown at you and you realize there's a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money. And as young people, we don't really always act the way that we should when we get a lot of money. So tell me a little bit about your start in the industry. We'll go back 15 years. You're a young man getting into the roofing industry. What led you in this crazy direction towards this particular line of work?
For sure. So I actually used to install solar. It was an interesting job. I was young, paid the bills and everything, but I just knew that wasn't going to be it. I didn't want to be on these roofs. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and being on a roof in the middle of August, carrying these black panels up there on a 12-12 pitch, just I wasn't excited to wake up and go to work every single day. It was a job.
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
And I appreciate the guys that are still doing stuff like that, our laborers and everything. And we need all kind of walks of life to keep this world going around. But I just don't think it was for me. And I got approached by a guy asking, he's like, obviously you're comfortable on a roof. Would you mind doing some canvassing, doing some inspections a little bit for us, really? Well, the inspection part really didn't come into play when they hired me. It was more just kind of doing some canvassing for them. So just started knocking on some doors for them, and then eventually did push them to kind of let me start doing inspections, learning some more, and then it just kind of rolled into some sales about 2.5, 3 years later. And like I said, it was kind of a back and forth. Wintertime wasn't great for me. I didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't really get great training. So ended up with some different companies after that. And then it really took off, and the whole sales aspect has been there. I shouldn't really say it took off because I was half-assing it, if you will. More worried about partying and doing anything like that. And then when I got sober, it did really take off. So like I said, got sober about a little over 6 years ago, and my roofing career has definitely taken off since then. And like I said, personal career too, but you really start to get more clear-minded in really diving into the industry and seeing what you can do to learn to be a sponge to be able to provide more for your homeowners and your customers. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they're putting their house and their homes in our hands here. So we need to try to learn as much as possible to be able to protect them. I'm in the insurance restoration world, so going up against these insurance companies, it's a task in itself. So the sales side is one thing, dealing with homeowners, but realistically, you gotta know your stuff and be able to know how to battle these insurance companies even more. So you need to be a little more talented on that side versus the sales side.
Yeah, I agree. I think being well-rounded right now is a very important thing. And I think that you said something there that caught my attention. You grew up in Charlotte. I actually, in a previous life, was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I opened a roofing supply company there back in 2010.
Okay.
And I was there for a couple years in Charlotte, right on Freedom Drive over there. And we had a good time. I enjoyed my time there, but it was I spent way too much time. I was like you. I was much younger. I wasn't so much into partying, but I was at a point in my career where I got an opportunity after being a truck driver. I drove a conveyor truck and roof loaded houses for 12 years. And in 2010, I got the opportunity from that company to move to Charlotte, open that branch up, help build that thing from scratch. And I took it very seriously. Maybe I think I took it too serious, is that I don't remember any of it. I was just working, and it was just go, 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 go. And my experience in Charlotte was probably amazing, but I couldn't tell you because it was just, I don't remember anything about it. But Charlotte's a beautiful place. I just had Jeremy Mayfield, NASCAR driver, on here a couple weeks ago, and they're right down there in the heart of everything in Mooresville, which is one of the coolest places in the world. So I can definitely appreciate that. Oh yeah. I was down there, and I went to all of the shops, and it's pretty good stuff down there. But I love what you say about how you get in. You started as a canvassing company. Were you canvassing for a company based in Charlotte?
Yeah. They shut their doors eventually, but I don't know, man. They're like, looking back on that company, it was definitely a sketch company, and that's one thing I think a lot of people that kind of go through when they're getting into the industry is like trying to figure out where that home is going to be and where that legit company is too. And like, you don't know what you don't know. So I went through that as well. And it just, looking back, it's like, man, I should have been with that company. But again, you don't know what you don't know.
That's it. It's education cost. It's tuition that you're putting your time in, and you're getting paid for it, hopefully. In a lot of cases there in Charlotte, I worked with several contractors that, sketch would be the word.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's nationwide. It's roofing. Here in Texas, there's no such thing as a license for roofing. So it's like, anybody can start a roofing company. And when anybody can do something, you're bound to get a couple shitbirds in the mix, and you're going to get some people that get screwed over, even if it's not intentional, or if it's people with good intent. They just don't understand the concept of waiting on money for insurance and having to float the bills in between that and all that. So it does happen a lot. Tell me a little bit about those early days going out there. Like you said, you don't get a lot of training when you come into this industry by a lot of people. You're basically given a stack of cards, probably, that you had to write your name in, because it's such a revolving door.
Yeah.
And you're basically told, all right, Blake, go out there, make it happen, bro. Like, just get us as many leads as you possibly can. So tell me about how that starts with you. Tell me about the mindset going in. Is it like, hell yeah, I'm going to go out here and take over the world? Or were you a little bit skeptical right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, they had a little bit of a trainer guy that would spend about one day with us. So like, you got a little bit of training, and that's like, go out there and do it. And then next week he might come back around for a couple hours. But it was just kind of, hey, here's some basis of what you need to say. Go out there and get as many as you can. There was no, this is the hours you need to work or anything. There was a lot of freedom to it, which that freedom, with me being younger, was not a good thing. It would have been better if it was more structured and there was a better line of communication. It was literally just turning your deals as soon as you get them, turning your appointments, and then we're going to go run these things. And you can come pick up a check on Friday for whatever you turned in, as long as it's legit, and that's all it was. And, the whole aspect of not the training was kind of a downfall on their part. I mean, if they probably would have spent a little more time and effort into me and the other guys, we would have been, better. I'm not saying we would have been rock stars starting off, but definitely would have been better. And, looking back on that, you can just say, hey, man, if they spent more time on us, they would have made so much more money because, I was young. I was a little eager when I'm out there working. If I'm working and doing that, I want to make some money. But you also have too much freedom where if you're not getting some answers, you're like, all right, I'm taking off for the day too. So it was interesting. And then getting through that aspect and getting to the sales side of it. And I knew that, hey, this all weighs on me being able to set these appointments. So I'm going to try a little bit harder. So I think when that came into play, it helped control me a little bit more, staying out there a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, definitely being able to control your own destiny. And like say, once you get into the sales side of things, you kind of recognize, okay, this is what these dudes have to do to get me the appointments. And I think you appreciate them a little bit more than someone that just kind of walks in and is like, all right, I'm a salesman. Here are some leads that are handed to you and you can just go out and do it. I think starting at the very bottom and working your way up like that is the best way to go about doing it. Because number one, it does separate the winners from the losers. It separates the curious from the serious, as they say, and you can go out there and I mean, I'm in my 40s at this point, and as recently as a year and a half ago, I had a homeowner that I almost got into a fight with in a front yard because of the way that they were, the way that they received me when I knocked on their door to offer to help them with something. So coming through all that stuff and having to deal with that, I think is probably ultimately the best way. And I think now in hindsight, you look at it and say, damn, there were a lot of things that we could have done better, but there were a lot of things that I learned that some of these guys never get to experience. And that's what separates you from some of these guys that come in and just fall into the sales positions. Let me ask this. When you get to that point, you're doing canvassing, you're making a decent living, you at some point have to be interested in the fact that, these sales guys look like they don't really have to do that much. And they're making way more money than I am. I'm out here hitting the doors and I'm getting beat up and having to wonder if I'm going to get anything today. These guys seem like they're making more money. They seem like they're having fun. What got you interested into the sales aspect, or was it something that was brought to you because of your performance?
So I'm sure it was a little bit of performance, but I'm also one of those type of people. Like, I don't want to get stagnant and like just knocking on the doors, kind of like the whole solar aspect. I knew that's not what I wanted to end up doing for the rest of my life, was knocking on doors. I mean, I tried to look at a little bit of the bigger picture. Like, I was younger. What am I going to be doing at, 30, 40 years old? I don't want to be knocking on doors for the rest of my life. Well, going to find out I'm still knocking on doors, but it's a little bit different, right?
Nicer doors.
Yeah. So it just came into play that, I was ready to grow and saw some of the money on the other side of things. It felt like I could do that as well too. So I pushed them to let me into it. Sold for them a little bit till I figured out, hey, I needed to get away from them. And not long after I left, they ended up shutting the doors down. So, but yeah, just seeing the opportunity there is what really pushed me, and having that opportunity to make so much more and make more of an impact. Because I can knock the door, but I don't really know what happens with this job, if it goes through or not. Being able to control the whole process from start to finish and have that happy homeowner that's, ecstatic that we were just being able to get them approved through an insurance claim. That's really, man. Of course we're in it for the money too, but it sure feels good at the end of the job to be able to help somebody out like that too.
I agree. And at this point in my career, that's the biggest thing for me is like you say, walking people through something that's scary to them and saying, hey, it's going to be all right. We're going to take care of this. You don't have anything to worry about. But something with me, okay? I told you earlier, I was in distribution for 15 years of my career. I drove a truck. I was the general manager of a supply company. One day I lost my mind over there on Freedom Drive in Charlotte, and I basically walked out of the company and never went back. And it was kind of crazy because it takes a lot to get to that point. And it was a pretty animated conversation that happened right before I made the decision. But I left that opportunity. I came to Texas. I went from Charlotte. I ended up in Texas, and I randomly get a job as a sales rep for a roofing company in Texas. I've never sold roofs to homeowners before in my entire life, but I assumed going in, they want to know about this, the difference of the materials and all this crap, because that was what I knew from distribution. When I started selling roofs, dude, I was probably the worst sales guy on the face of the earth. I was struggling mightily. I had like $10 to my name at one point. I thought it was over. And I had someone that I saw a video, is Mike Code, who's one of my main mentors in life. I saw one of his very first videos, and it touched me. And I started doing sales training, and I started learning the craft. But the moral of the story is, when I first got into it, dude, I was dog crap, right? Tell me a little bit about when you just decide, hey, this looks like a great opportunity. It looks like something I could probably do, but not classically trained. Don't really understand the whole process at this point. What do those initial days as sales guy look like for you, as far as learning the craft, getting, probably getting beat up a little bit, and maybe losing some deals along the way because you maybe weren't as sharp as another guy that's been doing it. But what did that look like for you in your early days in sales?
And that's part of it, man. You just got to get out there and fall on your face, and I think that's with a lot of things. I mean, you can look at sports like, oh, that didn't work. You need to try something different, different batting stance, whatever it may be. And it's the same thing out in the field. You've got to get out there and kind of figure it, because you're not going to have somebody standing right over your shoulder to tell you how to do it. And it's not even to say that person that if they were to stand over your shoulder forever, that they're telling you the exact right way for everything. And you've got to learn your own way too, because what works for one person is not going to work for another. So learning your own systems and learning your own kind of pathway to be able to help homeowners out, you just got to get out there and fall on your face a little bit till you start dialing in, like, well, that didn't work. What could I have done different? Then at the same time, like, when stuff goes right, like, you got to look back on it and think like, all right, that went really well. What did I do different? And try to pick out one or two things and say, hey, this worked good, and then try to repeat it. And if you start repeating it and you start getting success with that, then you need to start sticking with that. And try not to deviate too far off of that, because, hey, now that's a proven track record. You don't want to get too far off of that. You start doing some different stuff over there, and you start failing again, go right back to what you were doing before. And then that way you kind of know, hey, this is how I need to go into this. This is how I need to handle this. And that way it's kind of a clear path that you get. Now you're going to have different objections from different homeowners, but also kind of going through those and learning the best way to handle those rebuttals and handle those objections. Is once you learn the path to answering those, you're going to be good on that too as well. And don't try to deviate too much from that. I mean, there's so much stuff that I repeat day in and day out to the different homeowners, and it feels very repetitive for me, but I know it's the correct way to be able to handle that with a homeowner. So trying to just get out there and learn from your mistakes, and then learn from your successes too, and look back. Why didn't that work? Why did that work? And then putting it into like a playbook for how you're handling each and every one of your claims or each and every one of your sales.
Yep. And it's really that simple, guys. You just have to put in the work. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, I did great on this, but I sucked at this. And as long as you can be honest with yourself and you can be your own harshest critic, you get better every single time you go out. And for me, I'll never forget the time that I was finally let to go out and do sales on my own. I was training for about a month or so. I got good training, so I definitely can't complain about that. I thought I knew more than I did. I thought people cared about stuff that they really don't care at all about. And I'll never forget when I finally got set free and they're like, all right, go out there. You've been trained, make it happen. And I remember the very first roof deal that I ever got. I could drive you to the house in College Station, Texas right now.
Everybody,
a retired police officer. What's that?
Everybody remembers that first one.
That first one. So that's my question for you. Okay. You got into it. You're teaching yourself along the way. Tell me about that first deal that you got that really kind of hooked you on this and said, this is something I can excel at. Even if at that point in your life, you weren't quite as focused as we are today, but what did that first one feel like to you? And tell me just a little bit about that one, because that's the one that kicks off your entire change of life.
It does, man. So when I got released to go into the sales side, I obviously knocked this lady's door. It was pretty much a lay down sale because she needed it, right? And I didn't know really what the heck I was doing, but ended up walking her through it and leaned on, some management for like, hey, help me with this. I don't know how to handle that. But, went out there, got to meet her, ran the adjuster appointment, got that thing approved. She was super ecstatic, put her roof on, and here she is handing me a check. I turn in this check and now I'm getting paid. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome, and now you're getting paid a lot bigger from it. But yeah, I can't drive you to her house, but it was somewhere in Charlotte. But there's a black lady that I sat down and talked to about 10 minutes, ended up filing that claim, and bam, we were on from there, and then started getting them going. She was super, super sweet lady too.
Yeah. You always
I don't
remember,
know if she remember me, and she was a little bit older. Hopefully she's still around, but yeah, she was such a sweet lady. She ended up cooking some food for the guys and stuff, for the laborers and stuff. Like, still remember that, and it's like, man, this is off to a really good start,
Yep. And that's all it takes is that first one. And you're like, damn, this is awesome. You see the potential, you start racking up some wins then, because now you're like, oh dude, that's all I got to do. And I'm going to make $1,500, $2,000, whatever it may be. This is great. It's not so great though, from other perspectives as it pertains to life, because like we already mentioned, youngsters, we start making good money, start looking at other things and start finding other ways that we can have some fun. And a lot of those fun things that we like to do when we're in our 20s and early 30s and such are pretty destructive. And I think a lot of this stuff holds us back. And you just talked about your sobriety, but in order to get sober, you have to have those dark days. You've got to go through some of the treachery that is addiction. Yeah. And I can't help but assume that it's probably triggered by this new lifestyle that you've just discovered, the ability to go out and make some money. So tell me a little bit about that. And I know that's kind of a personal thing, but that's the way it works, right? You start making some money. All of a sudden it's like, well, what am I going to do with this money? I got to do something. And, pardon the expression, but like titty bars and stuff like that are pretty cool when you're in your 20s, drinking, doing some other stuff. So what's that look like for you when you get to that point? And then we'll take it after that, but what's the early stages of that look like for you to where, it starts to become a little bit of a problem?
Yeah, man, you start getting some money in your pocket and you start getting some freedom to kind of do what you want when you want, going out, drinking, bars, definitely been to the titty bars as well too. And then it just becomes more and more, I grew up in a party town, I'd say. I mean, we just all we knew each other. You go to a restaurant, you're running into one another. Hey, let's have a drink afterwards. And man, it's on after that. So just having a lot of money and a lot of freedom, you got to try to sit back. And I was obviously not the case of what I should have done with the money, because I went out and blew it all, and making some good money and still living paycheck to paycheck because you're more worried about going out there and partying. And it'll start to hold back your career too. Go out drinking Friday, Saturday, and then hey, it's football season, we're gonna have some drinks on Sunday, watch some games, and then here comes Monday morning, and bam, you're canceling an appointment because you feel like absolute dog shit, and canceling those appointments, and then it just starts to weigh on you. And it got to the point. I mean, I struggled with it for a long time. I mean, since I was younger, and eventually I got to the point where it's like, I knew I needed to get some help and get away from that life. And I remember my mom calling me and she was like, Blake, you ready to go to rehab? And I was like, yep, let's do it. And it was on since then, and really putting that away from me and then really focusing on myself and my career and dialing into that aspect. It has paid me tenfold over to where I have become as a man. But you got to be careful with that. And I'm not telling people don't drink, because not everybody's got a problem like I do. But this industry, it's a big party industry. It is, and I just say to the younger kids out there, just be careful with it, man. Just be careful with it. You don't want that to kind of control your life, when realistically, if you could dial into this industry, I promise you, man, you can make a ton of money and make a huge impact versus kind of beating yourself up like, hey, I had to cancel this appointment, I did this, or at the end of the year you're like, I didn't hit my goals because I was too worried about doing X, Y, and Z, chasing girls, chasing partying and everything like that. If you could really give yourself a good 3 months and just see what you can make out of it, and not really dialing in so much to the drinking and dial more into the industry, man, it's going to take off. And it has done absolutely that for me. This year, I mean, I'm set to do right around $6.5 million. I mean, we got blessed with a good year. Don't get me wrong, but the opportunity was there, and I didn't have anything holding me back. I wasn't worried about going out partying. I was worried about going out there and being able to provide for these communities and help out as many people as I can. And so when that opportunity hits and you don't have that vice holding you back, man, you can take off. And I mean, 6.5, I mean, that's a heck of a year. I mean, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of how many people we got to help. And it's definitely a record year for me. And I know I couldn't have done that if I was still drinking. I mean, it probably would have been maybe not even half of that, because you get so many cases of the fuck it's really, it's like, all right, sweet. I signed up 4 people today. Let me go take off. That was a great day. When, hey, if you would have dialed it in, you could have got 7 or 8, and just making sure that you're doing the full amount of work that you can through the day. And it kind of brings up another thing, is like being able to treat it like a 9 to 5. We don't work 9 to 5, but if you treat it like a full-time job and like, hey, I'm setting my day up to work till 7:30 tonight, right? Well, you hit 4 or 5 appointments and got these people sold by 4 o'clock. A lot of times you take off, but if you keep working to that 7:30 that you had, you may grab another 2 or 3, and then it just helps set you up for success for the next week or whatever it is. I mean, you're just kind of padding your numbers there. And really, I think that's a big key of what's kind of helped me in my career, is being able to treat it like a 9 to 5, to actually stay focused and work through the full day and not taking off either because it's a bad day or it's a great day, and really just keep dialed in to push through that full day.
Yep. And I mean, 6.5, I'll tell you what, that's super impressive. I work with sales reps all over the country, and 6.5 that's upper level elite status at this stage. And it's all earned through the hard work that you put in, through the realization that, this isn't working out the way that I need it to because of the decisions I'm making with my life. And when you get to that moment in your life, like you said, you had your mom, who, it's always a blessing when you've got someone that cares about you, that says, hey, look, bro, you're screwing up. You need to do something different because you're heading down the wrong path. Even if you're doing half of what you say, a lot of guys get to that point and they're like, dude, this is it. I'm successful. And they don't realize, if you really put the work in and you really focus on it, you can probably retire 10 years earlier than you think you can, just based on what you're able to accomplish. So I really love that. And of that 6.5, I got to know, is it all residential? Is it a mix of commercial, residential? What kind of work are you doing?
We did one commercial job, but I technically split that with a guy. So 500 of that was from commercial.
Nice. Everything else is straight residential. $6 million. That's incredible, man. Congratulations.
We'll see. I'm trying to finalize a lot of the numbers, and we do supplementing and stuff. So trying to get a lot of that stuff in. Not really taking on any more jobs, man. We had a crazy story. There was a roofing company out here that stole a whole bunch of money from people and shut the doors down. So we've had a very blessed year. So we're trying to give back, and not really taking on new customers right now, just taking on people that were affected by that company that stole all this money. And we're actually doing roofs at cost for them. They've really got screwed over. So we're kind of trying to end the year on a helping out note of being able to help as many people that were affected by that. So many people, $12, $7, $8, $10,000 just taken from them, and they're not going to get that back, So we're just trying to help out there. But it'll end the year feeling great, about what we were able to do. Will help some of the rest of the community out too as well. But yeah, man, very, very blessed this year. Definitely very blessed. We got blessed with a nice storm that hit. Homeowners probably don't feel that way, but if something happens, we want to be the ones to take care of them, because we know we can get them to the finish line and get them back to pre-loss condition as well too.
That's it. And you know what? People in their moment of desperation, not desperation, but when they feel like they're vulnerable, it's always great to know that there's someone there that you can trust, that you can believe in, that's going to take care of the situation, especially after what you just told me, because that happens to a lot of homeowners. A lot of homeowners get ripped off by asshole contractors in our business. And that's why our industry has such a shady reputation, because it happens a lot more often than people realize. And it's really unfortunate, but guys like us come to the rescue, and we're here to help. And, that to me is the most rewarding aspect of it at this point, is just knowing these people were completely taken advantage of. They got screwed. They didn't believe in roofers. They believe we're all pieces of crap because of what happened to them. My job was not just to go in and put a new roof on their house. It was to restore their faith in humanity. It was to help our industry have a better reputation, and success follows that. That's just the way that it works. In life, when you do good, good comes back around to you. Everything comes full circle. It's a shame that there are so many dirtbag companies in this industry. And I do also give a little bit of grace in some cases, because I understand cash flow and how things work as being an owner of a roofing company now on this side. My question about that is really it was unrelated, but I'm going to ask you this. With insurance restoration work being what it is, you talked about, we do a lot of supplements. We get a lot of claim work. I think the insurance industry is making a drastic shift right now in our industry. And I see a lot of things changing with the way that people's coverages are, with the amount of money that they're getting back, with depreciation being different and things like that. Do you have any concern, or do you think that there's going to be an evolution on your end at some point in the not too distant future that's going to go from the current model that we're doing, where we go in, we explain to them, hey, this is how it works. You pay your deductible. The insurance is going to cover the RCV portion, versus, you're going to get 50% of what it's going to cost to do your roof. Here's how much it is. Have you kept up with that at all? Is that something you're looking at for the future, as far as maybe shifting from an insurance as it is to more of a hybrid type model in the future?
We got to be prepared for it, man. We got to, but at the same time, I think somebody needs to regulate these insurance companies, because these changes to these policies, and like, hey, we're not covering X, Y, and Z. Like, if that gets to be too much, like, they need to be bringing these pricing down for these insurance, to have insurance on homes. You're required to have it per your mortgage company, right? So
yep.
If you're required to have it by a mortgage company, I really think they need to start stepping in and saying, hey, you're not excluding this. Like, if you want to exclude this, y'all can go but we're not going to accept your insurance if you're insuring one of our homes that we've got a mortgage on. So really, I wish they could step up in a way too, and try to back the homeowners and us in our industry, because if it gets too nasty and they're just not covering anything, then why pay for insurance, And
exactly.
hopefully that gets regulated. I mean, I know they're trying to make these switches and everything, but I think if they push the button too bad, hopefully the government or these mortgage companies step in and say, look, y'all can't do that. Or, if it's these state farms and all states that are doing this, hopefully these smaller companies prevail and say, hey, look, we're still willing to do that. And we're going to step up to the plate and making that homeowners be able to make that switch to those companies versus the bigger companies. And I always tell everybody, if you see them on TV, get away from them. The only really only really option that is a good company you see on TV, USA. I mean, they're still good. We still have pretty good success with them. Don't get me wrong; they got their issues themselves, but all insurance companies do, right? But
yep.
Yeah, I mean, it may come to that, and you got to be prepared in this industry to be able to switch that up. But hopefully it doesn't come to that level. I mean, these storms are there, and we've been forced to pay for insurance for homes, and they're trying to snatch that away from us, and it's really wrong. And like, how unethical these insurance companies are getting. I don't know if you saw that 60-minute article on the insurance companies and how unethical they are, but they did a whole 60 minutes article on that as well too. So hopefully they kind of get cracked down on them as well too. So I know they're trying to crack down on us, but it needs to go both ways too.
I agree. And at the end of the day, the homeowners are the ones that really get screwed in this deal, you know, and it's been a matter over the course of history. It's almost like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, right? And we're the coyotes, we're chasing it, and the Roadrunner is always just a little bit ahead of us. But it's always one of those deals where the anvil gets dropped on our heads, and we're the ones that get made out to be the bad guys because, again, our industry has basically built its own reputation based off of the people that do that stuff. But it's always been kind of an uphill battle for us as contractors to go to a homeowner and say, hey, look, your insurance company that you see on TV, you know, they're good neighbors and get great hands and all that stuff. They're not really looking out for you. They're a for-profit business. I'm here on your behalf. But it's been so skewed because there haven't been any contractors that have been able to do Super Bowl commercials and stuff like that. Our reputation is what it is because we don't have the backing to really go out there and say that it's not us. But I think that's kind of changing a little bit. And I think that some of the homeowners that I've worked with recently have really gotten bit. And, you know, now I'm seeing them where it's like they file a claim, the claim gets denied. And then 2 weeks later, they get a letter in the mail that says, hey, you need to replace your roof out of pocket because it's not damaged, but it's old and we're not going to repair it. We're not going to insure it beyond that. And that's when things start to get kind of nasty. And I agree. I hope that somebody somewhere is able to kind of step up and say, man, this isn't right. It's the people that are paying. And like you said, they're forced to do it. Your mortgage company is not going to let you not carry insurance. And they've got to be aware of the fact as well that with some of these half payments and things like that, money does become an issue for people. And if a homeowner doesn't have $10,000, they don't have $10,000, right? And what happens then is they get in trouble. They lose their coverage. It falls back to the mortgage. The mortgage company does have to do whatever they can to protect their investment. And people really are getting, you know, sent down a terrible path as far as that goes. So I do hope that it does change. I kind of like the fact that it's a little bit more retail as well, because it does separate the guys that don't have any real skill, which tend to be the ones that screw the homeowners over anyways. The guys that just knock on the door and say, we'll just do it for whatever. And, you know, they'll tell us how much we're going to get paid for it. But the element of the homeowner is what this is really about. And I think it's awesome that, you know, we can still go out there and educate people. I think it's starting to turn a little bit in our favor as now people are saying, well, wait a minute, these guys aren't really getting paid exorbitant amounts of money like they were, you know, being accused of. They're making enough money to have a living. But I always tell folks, insurance companies are not known for their overwhelming generosity. I've never had one that says, you know, well, it'll cost $7,000 to do the roof, but we're going to give you $30,000. You know, we have to fight and scratch and claw and do all that stuff. And I think that the way that things are valued nowadays, people have a skewed view of it because a roof that was $10,000 5 years ago is $15,000 now. And when someone says, well, damn, I just did my roof 5 years ago and it only cost this, why is it that now? You must be screwing me. They don't realize, you know, we're fighting tooth and nail for you, trying to get everything we can, but that's just the way that it goes. So I appreciate that viewpoint of it. And I love the fact that you're helping so many people through the process. People that are having a hard time and a bad experience are getting that help that they really need. So that's pretty awesome. I'm trying to split the podcast up into thirds here today. So that's the second third right there, which is your sales career, your career in roofing, the development from your addiction into sobriety. And I kind of want to start looking at that a little bit deeper now too. You get to the point where you realize you've got the issue, you go through rehab, you come back out and realize, damn, I'm strong and I can do this. You mentioned you've got a family now. You're getting older, you're growing. Tell me a little bit about how that dynamic came into your life, how you were able to grow to the point where you're at now and you're a $6 million plus a year sales rep. What did that look like, that transformation in your personal life from going out, getting drunk, doing whatever we do to, hey, I'm going to stay home with my family. I'm going to dedicate what I'm doing to them. Tell me about your family.
Yeah, man. So I actually grew up with her. We were kind of friends. And, you know, after I got sober, one of our mutual friends was like, why don't y'all try to hang out? And so she reached out to both of us, and it was kind of weird. So Leighton, our daughter, her dad and I were at a golf tournament where Lauren was at as well. I took a picture of both of them. Well, Lauren had that picture in her house. And then our friend Megan was telling her that she should try to hang out with me and kind of see where that could go. She thought I was a good guy. She loves Lauren too. And then here comes Leighton with a picture that I took during that conversation. You know, it's kind of weird for her. We ended up trying to make it work. She was down in Florida at the time, so we went and met in Jacksonville, and then kind of did a little date down there, and it's been on since then, man. It was good. So our relationship was kind of cool because we didn't have to go through the whole getting to know one another and everything. We knew each other. We just had to see if it would work relationship wise, and it has, man. She's an amazing mama. I love that about her. Sweet, man. She can cook with the best of them, I'll tell you what. So I put some LBs on since I've got married. So but yeah, man, just love her to death, love Leighton to death. And it's been transitional, you know, trying to learn how to be a husband and also trying to learn how to be a dad too. And it's been neat, but I made a commitment to her that I'm not going to miss anything that's important to her, whether that's a recital like yesterday where I was at her Christmas recital, and that was at 10:30 on a Friday. You know, I mean, that's during working hours, but hey, if that's on her schedule, then it's now on my schedule, and I'm blocking that off. And I think just making that commitment to her that, hey, I'm going to be there. Like I could be, I mean, there was one week I worked 95 hours, right? But making that commitment to them, if it's something big to y'all, let me know. I'll block it off on my calendar because that's more important to me. You know, not to say I don't need to go help those people, but we can push this back a little bit and make sure I'm there for my family because they need to be able to count on me too. They need to know I'll be there for the big stuff, or if they need something, I'm going to step up to the plate. So, I mean, it's a work in progress, you know. I mean, I think every relationship definitely is. I mean, you grow together, and then trying to learn how to be a dad, you know, you're always learning how to try to be a better dad or being a dad in general. As they grow too, because I mean, she's now 6 years old, so she's going through different stuff and wanting to do gymnastics and stuff like that. So now we're out in the backyard more, you know, watching cartwheels and everything like that. And she does not want you to miss one cartwheel, so you have to keep your eye on her the whole time. But
I respect that. I'm the same way. If I ever do a cartwheel, I hope everybody's watching.
I know, right? I don't want anybody watching my cartwheels. I've tried, and she doesn't even want me doing the cartwheels anymore. So. But man, it's been awesome. It really has. You know, I prayed about being able to find a good woman, and she reminds me a lot of my mom, and you know, I love my mom to death. And it's just she keeps a very clean household. You know, she cooks, make sure we got food on the table when I get home from work. There's a meal ready for me, and they're both sitting there, and it's awesome, man. So I really got lucky finding a good one, and got blessed with having a daughter in it as well too.
Yeah, man, that's terrific. I love hearing stories like that and how lives can change. And now your focus is 100% on your family. It makes you go out and work just, you know, that much harder and be that much more dedicated to it. You know, the younger version would take the day off if he's having a bad day. Now it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this because I've got goals. We've got things that we want to do as a family. And you want to provide the best life you possibly can. So my question for you, this is a big one. I've talked to a lot of people. I've been in sales myself. You're making a damn good living if you're doing $6 million a year in residential, but there is a little bit of freedom that comes with that. There's also a little bit of legacy, and a lot of my friends have decided, myself included, sales was awesome, but I think that there's a bigger picture for me. I want to run my own company. I want to be able to have my vision, and I want to provide for my family for generations to come. You know, you've got a 6-year-old girl. You want to make sure that she's taken care of, that she's got the ability to go to college, that there's something that can provide the lifestyle that she deserves. Have you ever given any consideration to starting your own roofing company, not doing sales anymore, getting out there and you know, just starting something from scratch and doing it for yourself?
You know, there's been a thought, but kind of happy where I'm at right now. So
good man.
you can't predict the future, but just never know, man. Never know what's going to happen. Right now, I'm happy where I'm at right now.
I think that's awesome. And there's so much that can be said for that mindset, because I think most people they take it for granted. I know when I was in sales, I had an amazing life. I would make six figures very easily. I could take entire months off. I didn't work in December for like 6 years. I got to go travel all over the world. I got to do some cool stuff, and it was never a thing. But then when the opportunity came to do the roofing company, I was there. I got you. I was there, and we made that decision. So I respect the fact, and that's all there is to ask on that topic right there. You're happy with where you're at, and I can appreciate that. Anybody that's gonna, do 6 million in sales is gonna have a good life regardless, and not having all the stress is pretty valuable. So,
and I think everybody's different, so, you gotta understand if you want to take on that next role. But I know there's a lot of people that go into wanting to start their own company, but man, there's a lot more to that goes into running a company than just, hey, being a top producer, right? Too. So, I will say anybody that's trying to do that, make sure you talk to some people and see what really goes in and out of the day-to-day stuff. Because yes, you can be a top producer, but do you know how to run a company? Like that's
a huge difference, believe me. As someone that's living that dream right now, it's a huge difference. And it's one where I think, if I could go back, would I reconsider it? Yeah, probably. So that's one of those deals. Let's continue on with your career progression. Like you said, you're having a career year. Things are just coming up, 777 for you across the board. What's this look like for you, in the future? What are your goals? Once you hit 6 million in sales, it's kind of hard to set a goal that's going to top that, because that's, most people are shooting for 1 million. Some are shooting for 2. When you get to that level of elite results, what's going to be the next thing that keeps you motivated to keep going out, besides your family, obviously, but to maintain those levels, when you get comfortable and you've got money in the bank and you don't have to think so much about, we're going to not be able to put food on the table or pay the light bill. What keeps you motivated, and what's the next 5 to 10 years of your career look like if it were to go exactly how you envision it in your mind?
Well, I think like once you kind of come into some money too, as well, you try to be smart with it too. I'm not trying to tell them about how to, run their finances or anything, but some of the stuff I want to get into is some real estate stuff and just some different investment too. So, because at the end of the day, new year, you're starting all over, right? New month, you start over. We're a lot of us are commission based only, so it's continuous. You got to keep after it. So I think being able to invest in some right things, and you can kind of get some of that mailbox money, it helps ease your stress levels a little bit. Like, hey, I got to keep producing, got to keep doing this and that, and then this industry goes through lulls. So like if you got an opportunity to be able to invest in something, you just get that constant mailbox money, that's going to help out as well. And then, so that's one thing I want to look at it into is doing some real estate next year as well too. Whether that be, flipping a house or 2, something like that, and then eventually maybe buying another house and just renting that thing out. So I think being able to buy some houses and rent those out, and then just constantly keep trying to buy a couple more here and there. Say there's 10 or 15 houses I own by the time to retire, you can start selling one year. Hey, that house can sell for 700,000 now. Well, that's going to cover you for a year or 2, whatever it is, and then you can just start dropping these houses kind of as you're going through your retirement, and those are only going to appreciate more. So I feel like it's a good investment. You always hear about multimillionaires. Everybody that you usually hear about has some kind of in on real estate as well. They've got their money tied up into a little bit of real estate. So just trying to follow a little bit of that trend and trying to get into some of that as well too. So we know as a family, hey, we got, even if it's $3,000 additional dollars, a month or every other month or whatever it is, that's an extra $3,000. And then just kind of keep trying to build that up till, hopefully that's $10,000 a month, and then you got to retire. That money's still coming in the door. and you're taking care of them, and now you own some properties as well too. So that's kind of what I'm trying to look into. I'm not trying to lean off the gas on the sales side of it, but it's like, hey, where can I get that additional mailbox money too?
Absolutely. And as we continue to get older and we evolve, you realize there are other opportunities there. This is a great vehicle to kind of get you to wherever you need to be. But once you see some of the other things, you know, the opportunity to buy some homes, to do those kind of things, it's available to you now because you did, you know, start off struggling. You started at the very bottom of the industry and worked your way all the way up to the top. And with that comes great rewards. You know, you've committed your life. You've gone through the ebbs and the flows of it. You've had, you know, major trials and tribulations, come out on the other end, happy, enjoying your life, content with the way that things are going for you at the moment. And I think that that is absolutely the best plan. And that's something that's sorely lacking with our industry is just people that have that mindset. We've got a lot of people that have it, but there are a lot of people that don't as well. And I think it's really cool that you've come to that realization, and your plan is definitely going to come to fruition because you've thought it out and you understand, hey, this could be a lot worse for sure. So I respect that. I always like to ask this: when you become a top producing sales rep, there are people that are watching, and a lot of times you don't even realize how many people are paying attention to you. You put stuff out on social media. I'm looking at your Facebook now. A lot of inspirational things, a lot of cool things. You've got a lot of followers. You and I have 412 mutual friends. So I know you're dealing with some badasses, but there are probably people that you've never even met before that are on your social media that are seeing what you're doing. Have you ever had anybody that's in the industry that's maybe a version of your younger self where they are right now reach out and say, hey, man, can you give me a little bit of guidance? Can you help me? Have you had anybody that's reached out and looked for the secret sauce from you as far as how you were able to make it happen?
Absolutely, man. So I try to put some motivational stuff out well, I don't even try. I make a commitment to put some motivational stuff out every single day. It's got some attention from some of the guys in the roofing industry, kind of seeing what I'm doing and everything too. And man, that's one thing that I really love right now is being able to help those younger guys. You get on these Facebook pages, man, there's a lot of people that are tearing each other apart. When somebody asks a question, now, is it a silly question to us that have been in the industry 5, 10, 15 years? Absolutely it is. But guess what? They're starting in this industry. They don't know this, and they have tucked their tail between their legs to ask thousands of people and put it on blast that, hey, I don't know this. Can y'all help me? And people are tearing them apart, man, and I cannot stand that. Like it fires me up because we all had to start somewhere. We all have to ask those questions. Man, I'm deep into this industry and I'm still asking questions because you've got to be a sponge to it. You've got to learn how to be able to overcome different stuff. And there's always going to be something new that you need to be learning. So kind of back to that, the people that are tearing these people apart, like, you know, I may reach out to that person privately and say, hey, man, I saw the question you had. Here's my number. If you want to hop on a call, 10, 15 minutes, man, I'm happy to go over anything that you have. Got a good friend that jumped into the roofing industry, and man, he's leaned on me heavily. I think he's at like 600,000 or 700,000. He's been at it 6 or 7 months now, like killing it, nice. Man. Like happy for him, you know. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised next year he does 2 million. Like he is rock solid, but he's putting the time in and asking the questions. We spend like 30 minutes every Wednesday night on a phone call, and he'll ask me these questions, jot down the answers. And then he spends that time trying to learn that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I do, man. And I want to help out the younger people. And I don't want to necessarily charge for it by any means. I want to see who I can help that's brand new. It's got some simple questions that, hey, man, if it takes me 5, 10, 15 minutes to sit down with you and answer that, like, man, that's fulfilling my heart, you know? Like I'm helping somebody because I was in those shoes, you know? I need to be able to do that, to be able to fulfill me, to be able to feel like I'm giving back to this industry too, because this industry is definitely going to take care of us. But at the same time, if we can give back to this industry and help the next person, guess who we're helping? We're helping those homeowners, you know? And the people that are tearing those people apart, man, like go somewhere else, like get out, man. Either try to help somebody or don't say nothing at all. Like, but I can guarantee that person that's tearing that person apart, they didn't know that answer when they first started either. So I think everybody just needs to take a step back and really try to see where we can't help each other out. I get it. We're competition and everything. But when you see somebody reaching out, asking for some help, tuck their tail between the legs, like, dude, just reach out, help them out, see where you can't do it. And if we had more of that in the industry, then I think this industry would be more knowledgeable to be able to help our homeowners out as well.
Definitely. And the one thing I always notice with that is the people that are tearing everybody down, nobody ever knows who the hell those people are. It's a bunch of no-name guys that think they're badasses. And really all they have is this little Facebook forum where they can go on there and say, oh, what a stupid question, freaking, why don't you just Google that or whatever? It gets pretty animated and vicious, honestly. And I've always wondered, how many great, talented people have left this industry because of that type of mentality. They go on and try to ask something and get absolutely eviscerated. And it's like, you know what? Screw this, man. I'm going to go work at the car dealership or I'm going to go do something else. And how many people had the opportunity taken away from them before they were able to realize what it really was and meet their potential? And like I said, it's always the people that nobody's ever heard of. It's the people that are not doing anything. The guys that you recognize, the names that you see on a regular basis that are helping people, you start to realize they're the ones that are the most successful at this anyway. So I think those two things go hand in hand. The small mindset that has to tear other people down, it's because they've never achieved shit in their own career. And they just, and I'm saying it here on Keepin It Rio. Anybody that's got a problem with that, I apologize. No, I don't. But it's the people that have done very little, that are the most opinionated, that are the most vocal in the negative light. And then the people that are willing to just help you and do whatever. And I take the same approach. I have probably, I don't even know, man, between, 5 and 50 people reach out to me every week on any given day. And I've got friends who I've been friends with for 15 years and we've kind of come through this together. I get people that reach out to me and say, hey, I just started in this. I saw one of your podcast episodes, whatever, can you just tell me, is this worth my time? And to me, if we can help bring one of those people in and we can help someone meet their potential and exceed it and have a life that they really deserve because they're willing to put themselves out there, everybody wins. The only people that don't win are the haters. And like they always say, nobody hates on someone that's doing less than they're doing. So take that for what it's worth at face value there, guys.
I mean, pick people up. I mean, you get more when you give more too, and I'm not saying that that's, definitely going to happen 110%, but I tell you what, man, it sure feels good to be able to give back. I mean, I've helped a guy I grew up with, help him get into the roofing industry, man. I see his wins come through and man, it puts a smile on my face that when he's winning, I'm winning, like it makes me feel good. Do I make a penny off of it? Absolutely not. Nor do I want to, like he came in town and he's like, I'm buying your lunch. I'm like, nah, man, like you don't need to do that. I appreciate the offer, but like this is also giving me fulfillment as well too, being able to help you out as well. So I think just reaching back and helping the people along the way is really the way to go about life, and not just in this industry, but like you see a lot of the anonymous posts out there, and people have to do that because they're so dang scared to say what they want to say, and they don't want to put their name out there and get roasted because of so many assholes in the industry. And there's a lot of good people out there too. You can go through. I mean, there's times when I see it and they're getting roasted, and by the time I'm ready to go comment, I'm like, all right, there's 5 or 6 people that have jumped on it and helped them out. Awesome, love it. So yeah, I just think reaching back. But yeah, the people that are tearing people down, I mean, they've got something going on internally. They need to work on themselves too. They need to be asking people how to get away from that too.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, most of them are the ones that kind of repel that type of situation. And hey, you mentioned the word competition. I look at it this way. In the roofing industry, there are way more roofs than there are roofers. If every one of us does a roof a day for the rest of our lives, all of us, we all do a roof a day for the rest of our lives, there's still going to be millions of opportunities at the end that we weren't able to get to just because of the volume. So how stupid is it to sit here and argue and say, you know what, this guy's my competition in my market. Well, really, if 2 of us do the same amount of work every day for the rest of our lives, there's still going to be millions left. So Why not help each other? Why not elevate the industry, help people bring their knowledge up so that they're not making mistakes that unintentionally screw people? I see that happen a lot right now, especially here in San Antonio. I've been meeting with a lot of homeowners that say, you know, there were a couple canvassers that knocked on the door. They gave us the presentation about the hail. We called. We come to find out that we have $7,000 in depreciation that we can't get back. I don't think those guys that knocked on the door intended to screw them over like that. They just didn't have the understanding. They didn't get the training, and they didn't know that, you know, you're not doing the right thing. So being able to stand up and help people like that, I think, is amazing. And I applaud you for having that mindset. You know, when you made your own success in life and you had to kind of fight for it yourself, there were people along the way that helped you. So I appreciate that. And yeah, man, being a mentor, that's what this is really all about.
We get the opportunity to learn some stuff, man, and share that stuff. I mean, you kind of touch on this. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 companies, and we're all in a group chat here in the Charleston area. You know, we go out to lunch together. We'll go fishing. We've been fishing together, but we're in a group chat, and we can ask anything in this group chat. You know, nobody's giving away industry secrets, but, you know, hey, if they got a claim question, like, hey, how do y'all get around this? Bam, do this, do that, you know, and we can lean on each other, and we know that we're out there trying to make an impact in the community, and doing more of that is going to help us out more and learn from each other. And when they see somebody, hey, that's with New Beginnings Construction, and they may get contact like, hey, New Beginnings, you're working with Blake at New Beginnings. Oh no, you're in good hands, man. You know, no need. And like, so it's a lot more respect in the industry. And I mean, I see roofers not in this group chat. I'll wave to them, driving down the road. I mean, some people still don't wave back, but you know, it is what it is. Like, yeah, it's competition, man, but it doesn't need to be severe. And the thing is, like, I don't understand why more of us don't hang out, because we got so much in common. We love doing this. I mean, why not try to become more friends than enemies, really?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. That's the way I've done my entire career, and I help people here locally. A young company owner called me the other day. We talked for 45 minutes on the phone, and it was about what's working for you with canvassing, what's not working, what would you do in this situation? And I'm happy to help out because I'm confident in myself. And I tell people, maybe it does sound arrogant or whatever, but I don't have any competition. I don't care about who else is going to meet the homeowners. I don't care about any of the other companies in town as far as that goes. If I go out there and I give my best and I do the best that I possibly can, I should be able to beat anybody that I need to beat at any time. And if I can't, that's on me. It's not on someone being a lower bid or someone doing something shady. It's because I didn't earn the business. And therefore, I'm more than happy to share as much as I can with anybody, because I feel like I will be at my best when I get there. And if you're better than I am on any given day, congratulations. That's pretty damn impressive. And you beat me. And there you go. So that's the mindset. I'll tell you what, Blake, we have been talking for over an hour. I was telling you that we're going to try to keep it around an hour. So we're going to kind of start winding this episode a little bit down. I always like to ask at the end of each episode 2 questions. Number 1, as a guy who's been doing roofing sales and has helped many, many, many homeowners, tell me a story about one of the jobs that you've done at some point in your career that really just stand out for whatever reason. You told me about the first one where the lady was cooking for your guys, and you never forget your first one. But there are all kinds of people that we meet on any given day. We get to work with so many diverse people. Tell me a story about something from your career that just either changed your life, stood out to you, was funny, whatever it may have been. Just give me a homeowner experience that nobody else can come up with.
Yeah, man. So, like, I mean, we get to help all different kind of walks of life, but being able to help some of the people that are financially don't have the backing on that. So I had a customer kind of go through her claim, and at the end of it, we were sitting in her living room, and then she just started crying because she was like, Blake, I had absolutely no idea how I was going to pay for this. Like, she had just enough to cover her deductible, and that was it. She was like, Blake, and I had to like back down on eating food just to hit that, you know, and like she didn't didn't really tell that till the very end of the job. And here she is crying about this, thanking me so much for helping her get to where she needed to be. Cause she was like, there was no way I was going to be able to cover this roof. And just being able to help people like that is, man, that felt so good, you know, and like, it almost wants to bring tears to your eyes when you got somebody that, man, you just hit the jackpot of somebody that really needed your help. And just being able to look for those opportunities to be able to help, you know, certain people like that is amazing. So, I mean, I tell that story a lot of that lady being able to cry or crying at the inner living room that she just didn't have the funds to be able to cover a roof. So she was so thankful that I was able to step in and help her get that thing covered, which, I mean, it was owed to her. I mean, that's what she pays her insurance for, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, we were able to step in and get her a new roof, and she was so thankful, man. I'll never forget that.
Yep, that's one of the ones. And there are so many of those that we get to be blessed with throughout the course of our lives. And I never take that for granted. I never have. Sometimes I've taken other things in my career for granted, but I've never taken for granted the ones that really, really needed my help, that we were able to help, and the way that it changed their lives and the way that it impacted them. That is, there's no paycheck in the world that can compensate you like that. And I think just having the mindset that you do is so impressive, because good things continue to happen to good people. And when you do good, good comes back to you. So I appreciate that story very much. And I love that. And there are a lot of people that have, you know, those experiences. It's what's beautiful about what we do. The last question I always like to ask is this. We talked about how you get people that reach out and how you're kind of looking to help with people along the way. If there's someone in our industry right now that's maybe just getting started, they're watching this and they're thinking, well, man, that Chuck dude's kind of a dumbass, but I like Blake and he seems like he could probably help me out with some stuff. How do people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you and kind of learn and see how you're progressing through life? And then also, anybody that's in the area that could be a potential roofing client, how do they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, for sure. So, couple things, like, new guys in the industry, if y'all want to reach out to me, hit me up on Facebook, we'll hop on a call. My number, I mean, I'll put my number out there. It's 843-814-4030, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Just shoot me a message, shoot me a text, give me a call, whatever you need to do. We'll find some time and sit down and go through some things that you need to. All I ask is, like, you try to have those kind of questions, and we're not kind of 110% freestyle. I'd love to have the questions put together so we can kind of go over that together. And then if you're looking for a roof in the greater Charleston area, same way, find me on Facebook, shoot me a message. And then if anybody's struggling with sobriety as well and wants to just have that conversation, feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm not sitting here and saying I know all the answers to roofing or to life, but man, I've been through some stuff. I've had some trials and tribulations, and I feel like I'm on the right side of things. So if I can be any assistance with a sobriety, with a roofing, maybe need a roof in the greater Charleston area, or if you're new to the industry, like, don't hesitate, reach out to me. I'd love to help you.
There you go, folks. And that's genuine. I can clearly feel that through the computer screen. This guy's here to help. He's here to improve your life, to help you along the way, maybe help you not make some of the mistakes that we've made and smooth out the process, because nobody needs to make those mistakes more than once. And if we can help eliminate someone from having to go through hardships, there it is. Last thing I need to talk about before we go about our business here on Saturday morning, Blake, I got to thank my sponsor. My sponsor is Roofer. You're in the roofing industry. You guys use Roofer?
Well, they're probably not going to like the answer to that, but we don't.
No, well, hey, there's always room for
also
improvement.
Not my decision, so don't get mad at me.
Exactly. There's always room for improvement. You've heard of Roofer. You know what it is. They've been my sponsor here on Keepin It Rio for the last 2 years. We're getting ready to have a new agreement here for another year of sponsorship. Going to do some cool things together. But one thing I got to say is Roofer has helped me tremendously in my roofing business with the CRM that they've got, all of the programs that are available within that literally can help me go from the initial contact to the final payment. And if it's okay with you, before we bid each other farewell for the day, I'd like to take 20 seconds to play this quick ad for my sponsor. And then we will wrap this show up on the end of the other side of this 20 seconds. So here we go.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payment in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all you got to do to get started with Roofer. And hopefully the powers that be that make the decisions maybe watch this podcast and say, oh, that guy's pretty convincing about Roofer. Maybe we make a change somewhere down the road. Who knows? But regardless of that, Blake, I want to thank you so much for taking time today. I have really enjoyed this conversation. We're well over an hour into it now. And I think we could probably do another hour if we really wanted to, but people's attention spans kind of get a little hazy after a while. And this leaves an opportunity for us to do another episode somewhere down the road. So thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that watches Keeping It Rio. Like I always say, I would do this podcast if nobody watched it, as long as I could still have conversations like the one I just did. But thankfully for me, people do seem to watch it. And we've got a nice little diverse fan base all over the world. So couldn't be more thankful for everybody that tunes in every week and shares the shows and all my guests and everything. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all know how I like to end Keeping It Rio with the corniest, most cheesy tagline in the history of the world, which is keep on keeping it real. Yeah. See you guys next week. Thank you.